So yes, this may look like a bit of deja vu, granted in a different color, but here's the script. You and I already drove the fancy version of this, the one with the long wheelbase and the BMW engine, which means we have to try the other side of the fence. Yeah, the cheap seats, but this one it's shorter wheelbase and it's a hybrid, but not just a hybrid in the traditional sense, it's a hybrid in that it has the engine from the Defender. Okay, so technically this is a hybrid, but it's unlike other hybrids you and I have driven before in that it's not a parallel hybrid like a Toyota, for example. It's closer to the Mercedes 53 series of hybrids that we've driven that have the integrated starter generator motor. However, the architecture here is different. The integrated starter generator motor does not sit between the engine and the transmission. Instead, this car does have an accessory drive, which means the integrated starter generator motor hangs off of that accessory drive. In terms of output, 395 horsepower and 406 pounds of torque. Now, you and I have experienced this very engine before in the Defender, so that's where it's a hybrid between different Land Rover products. In terms of real-world use case, that would be fuel economy for a vehicle that is 207 inches long. So yes, this is the shorter wheelbase. It's 8 inches shorter than the one we've already driven, but the fuel economy here, 16, 26, 21 combined. Now yes, it is shorter, but this one does have more storage capacity in the back because the car you and I already driven had that like signature suite in the back. Think like business class seats out of a commercial airliner. That works in conjunction with a console that runs almost the length of the vehicle. That console also includes a cool box, otherwise known to us plebes as a refrigerator. That takes up some of the storage behind the rear seats. So without that console, the refrigerator, the bucket seats, and instead with a bench seat, this one has more storage behind the rear seats at almost 41 cubic feet. You may be surprised to learn that this is over 10% lighter than that long wheelbase SV we've already driven. 5,240 pounds, or depending on how express your weights and measures, 2,328 kilograms. That's 600 pounds lighter with that dynamic mode. Little bit of delay there. Oh, it opens up. When it's under this kind of load, you notice, oh wait, we gotta slow down there. This, it's not meant for going around corners. You notice the difference in torque, more so than horsepower, when you're trying to push it under load from a standing start there. But however, in traffic, passing power, that kind of stuff, where it's already developed some torque, there it's not a huge noticeable difference between this and the BMW 523 horsepower V8. Same transmission, the 8-speed torque converter automatic. Now net, how does it compare to other mild hybrid applications? Here, like the Defender, it doesn't have that low-down torque the Mercedes system has. The ones in like the GLS, that integrated starter generator motor being positioned between the engine and the transmission, there it makes a difference. Here, at least from a standing start, it could use a little bit more torque off the line. Now let's put that aside, because the thing you notice immediately that slaps you across the face as soon as you get behind the wheel of this, after getting out of the long wheelbase, which I drove only a week prior to this, the drivability is a million times better here. Yeah, it's 8 inches shorter in wheelbase. There's that. But remember, we talked about in the SV episode that all Range Rovers now have four-wheel steering. And here you notice it so much more than the long wheelbase. In long wheelbase, we notice that we're making like donuts in the middle of the road or in like a parking lot because it shortens the overall long wheelbase there. But now the combination of this new platform, the air ride, and then the four-wheel steer, the ride quality changes. I would argue it's somewhere between a Maybach and like a GLS AMG. So putting it all together, the driving experience, it still has the swagger that Range Rovers have always had. I told you in the last episode, these, whether they're long wheelbase or short wheelbase, I feel like I've climbed to the top of Macho Mountain. And even this one, the sort of cheap seats in the Range Rover world, I feel like I'm there. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game, Mind the Options game, with today's contestant, a not-so-fancy version of a very fancy vehicle. This, the Range Rover P400. So this is the cheap seats in the Range Rover world. That is a base price of $104,000. However, this one is not really the cheap seats. This is the SE, so the base price on this one is $110,000. Then we can make it more fancy with something called a Showroom Spec package. Not a great name for some interesting bits. Like, for example, you will notice the door panels are leather, like the SV. That's part of this package. The illuminated door sills, I am a complete sucker for those. Some other bits, as well as the brake calipers. They're charging you extra as part of this package to have the brake calipers finished in black, which doesn't make any sense to me. I would think you'd want to charge extra for like red or even blue, something unusual, but not black. Either way, $4,575. Then the 23-inch wheels, this comes fitted with 21-inch wheels as standard, but these are 23-inch style 1075. Jaguar Land Rover, not very creative with the names of the wheels, just these numbers, and those are $3,800. Then the color here, which is gray. I'm not a huge fan of the gray, but it does look good with this contrast gray with the tan. They call it Charente Gray, $1,950. The interior is called Callaway. Now this is in semi-aniline leather, so it changes the grade of leather. It's like that SV. Really fantastic tactile feel on the inside of this vehicle because of this one option. So I would say well worth the $1,850. Then if we want the seats, heated, cooled, and massage in the front, heated, cool in the back, and heated in the third row. Yes, there is a third row there. That is $1,600. Then an option I am a complete sucker for is the head-up display, $1,350. Really? You're going to charge me extra for a head-up display in a $110,000 vehicle? Can we think about that? Then the Meridian stereo. Here, $1,200. Not that much for a premium stereo. Remember, some of the premium stereos in the BMW world, the cheap ones are $800, but then when we get to the fancy ones, they're like $4, $5, and $6 grand in like some Porsches. This Meridian, it kicks. So I'm not really arguing for $1,200. Then the natural brown veneer, huge change here, much better than the white porcelain in the SV, especially because they've got it on the inside of the door panel behind the actual seat adjuster. Well worth it for $650. Then they charge you something extra for the clear night rear view mirror. So that is a rear view mirror that I believe is a video camera. Why are you charging me an extra $600 on a $110,000 vehicle for a fancy rear view mirror? Then we go on to the configuration programs. That's the different drive programs. Again, why is this option on a vehicle that makes its name on off-roading? That is $550. The cabin air purification, that is $500. And then the park assist, that is $200. Then this one is indeed made in the Midlands of the UK, not in the Czech Republic like the Defender. So this one is $1,350, which brings us to a total retail price of $130,175. Put another way, a full $120,000 cheaper than the SV long wheelbase that we drove previously. Now, a little aside here. I drove this vehicle to the post office today, and I was chatting with a guy who saw it in the parking lot. And he's like, hey man, how long did it take you to get that vehicle? Because he's been waiting for one for quite a while, apparently. Well, he was saying that all the dealers, A, are sold out. So if you want one in MSRP, you're going to wait a while. However, they're still getting over sticker for this as well as any of the fancy ones on top of that. And this is before we get into the one that's going to have the plug-in hybrid. That's going to have almost 40 miles of electric driving range. And supposedly, the base price on that, the P440e, is going to be the same price as this at the basic level, the $104,000. Admittedly, the last time we talked Range Rover, I completely geeked out about design, specifically color and trim and tactile feel. This one, yes, is sort of the cheap seats of the Range Rover world, but I would argue the execution is better here because of some of the color and trim choices and the tactile feel. Like, for example, this material, it changes from the porcelain it's so much better because it's a high touch tactile point. And here, I know this is going to sound very strange, but it feels like a very, very expensive ski jacket. Like not just Gore-Tex, but something you buy in like Vail or Oostenrijk or something like that. Now I do need to point out something that occurred to me only after I switched off the cameras in that SV long wheelbase episode. Look at the dashboard. And then go back to one of our Jaguar episodes, like the recent F-Pace episode. Actually, that wasn't that recent. Look at the design of that, and then look at this, and tell me you don't see Jaguar in the design of this dashboard. In any event, the one thing I would change, we talked about this UX, and that was something we've seen in the Defender and now other Jaguars, where it's all multifunction, and it's still knobs that work, that are safe. However, the weight to them, it's not commensurate with what this thing costs. Like it still feels like a cheap mid-level Jaguar here. Maybe add some more weight to these buttons or change these buttons. That's what it needs. So you and I learned something incredibly different than we normally do in these episodes. In this specific case, less is absolutely more. And it's not just the shorter length of the vehicle, it's that combined with the four-wheel steering and the torque that comes out of the mild hybrid system, and specifically the way the mild hybrid system delivers its torque. Now, you can't really confuse this thing with the power that comes out of like a GLS AMG or an X6M. It's not that kind of quick. It's quick for the application that most of these things will be used for, which is around town. Now, this brings us to the wish list. And here, I don't have a lot to say about the electrification because we're going to save that for the coming plug-in hybrid episode. Here, this, as we learned in the SV episode and now this second go-around, it's more about the design. Specifically, the color and trim and the tactile feel on the inside of the vehicle. Looks great when this car is brand new. However, I have many friends with these kind of vehicles, and after about 5 or 6 years, even 4 years, the interiors, they don't wear as well as other fancy vehicles like Mercedes and BMWs and Porsches. So here, my suggestion back to Jaguar Land Rover is, yeah, you made a huge step forward with the tactile feel of the inside of the vehicle. Hopefully, that extends past 4, 5, 6 years of ownership. But of course, I am just one man, and this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, a little bit behind the scenes. Now, yes, I was excited to drive this after our experience with the BMW engined SV long wheelbase. However, before I drove this, I actually picked it up at LAX a couple of nights ago. I drove to Denver Airport to catch my flight to LAX in a Mercedes GLS 450. In fact, I drove that car around for about 4 or 5 days with Nathan Adlin of TFL Car. So I had a lot of experience with the same technology, recent experience of the same technology, just from different countries. Until I see you in the next episode, bis später.